By the end of this video, you'll have your own personal Instagram clone that creates banger content on autopilot. I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to build this on n8n with absolutely no code, so it's perfect for non-techies and beginners. This n8n workflow will create an effective script for your clone or avatar to narrate, so you can push out scroll-stopping content without lifting a finger or getting in front of a camera. I'll also share a free template of the workflow in the description below, so you can follow along and get your system up and running. If you like easy automation builds like this, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get right into the build. So before we start building the workflow, I just want to show you quickly how the workflow is going to look like at the end. So we're going to start, in this case, with a chat message receive trigger. And of course, you can replace this later on with any other types of trigger like on schedule or Telegram or Slack message, depending on how you want to prompt the Instagram script generator. So the prompt will be passed on into this Instagram script generator, which is responsible for generating the script to be passed on to a tool called HeyGen, which creates the avatar of yourself. And so you can basically narrate the script that was generated from that Instagram script generator agent. And after that's been generated, we're just going to pass it on to SUBMAGIC, which is another tool that adds text overlay to your videos so that it's just going to look real nice and viral ready on your Instagram. And ultimately, it'll post it to your Instagram through a tool called Blotato. And of course, we have the Instagram caption agent, which is the caption or the text that goes below your Instagram reel to describe the real content, as well as apply all the necessary hashtags so that it is SEO effective. So starting the workflow from scratch, the first trigger that we want to hit here is the chat trigger node. And the reason we choose a chat trigger node is because we want it super easy for us to iterate and for us to try out. And later on, again, you can replace this with any other trigger that you like. So I'm just going to populate this chat trigger with a simple hello for now. And then I'm going to change that later on with a prompt that makes sense. So the second node that we want to hit here is the AI agent node. And because this is connected to a chat trigger, we're just going to leave that as is. And of course, the prompt user message comes from the chat input here, which is automatically by default populating this field. And as you can see, the actual value here is hello because I tapped in hello earlier on. And what I want to add here is basically the OpenAI chat model, which is the brain that's going to power up our AI agent. And I'm just going to go with GPT-5 in this case, because that's the most advanced model. And there we go. And in this case, we don't necessarily have to add a context memory, but you can do so if you like. But what we want to do here is to configure the AI agent with a system message. So going back to the AI agent node, I'm just going to hit the system message option. And I'm going to toggle this into expression so I can blow it up. So what I have done is I prepared this system message that is basically optimized by ChatGPT. So you can simply go to ChatGPT or any other LLMs of your choice to go into how to prompt engineer it. Basically, I just want it to be a very effective prompt. As you can see, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, you're an Instagram Reel script generator agent, which is what it is. And your role is to take a topic or idea provided by the user and transform it into short, compelling Instagram Reel scripts that hooks attention within the first 3 seconds and keeps the viewers engaged until then. Okay, so, and then there's some guidelines here and there, but essentially it is supposed to come up with a very effective script for my avatar or the clone of myself to narrate later on. Cool, all right, so that's the system message, and we can actually move on to the next one. And just right before we do that, let's just try executing step. Also, actually, before we do that, I will give it a real prompt, which is create an Instagram reel around the topic of early retirement. So what I'm trying to do here, in this case, I'm pretending to be an Instagram influencer, specializing in the topic of personal finance and maybe talk about financial freedom, early retirement and stuff like that. But essentially, yeah, you see a lot of influencers talk about different topics as well. So essentially, you can prompt engineer that on your script agent. So I'm going to hit enter, and the prompt is now being sent to the AI agent. And as it's loading that, I'm just going to rename this script generator agent so that we're clear on what it's doing. So that node has been executed. So let's look at the output. So this is a script here. What if 40 was in mid-career? It was your second life. Early retirement isn't about having millions. It's about needing less, owning your time, blah, blah, blah. All right, so looking pretty good. So I'm going to move on to the next node. The next node we want to hit here is the HTTP request node, because this is where we make the API calls to HeyGen, which is a tool that we're going to use to generate the avatar, right? So right before I fill this up, I want to go over to HeyGen. So just go to heygen.com and, get signed up. I'm already signed up. So if this is your first time working with HeyGen and you want to see exactly how to get signed up and create your own avatar, I have made a video around how you can do that step by step, and I'll link it up here and down in the description below as well. But essentially it's pretty easy. You're going to upload a video of yourself talking to the camera so you could generate an AI version of yourself saying other stuff, right? So once you're done with that, you actually have a list of avatars right here. So these are my 2 avatars, but where you want to go here is to the API documentation, which you can find by typing in docs.heygen.com and go over to avatar videos with HeyGen API. And where you want to hit to here is just to scroll down to the generate video API right here. And what you want to do is just copy the entire JSON chunk, and don't worry if this all seems a little technical. Again, you don't need to do or know any of this coding. This is just a chunk of code, and you just got to copy it and go back to your workflow and essentially hit import curl right here on the HeyGen post node and copy the entire thing, right? So we're going to import that. All right, so you can see all these fields are being auto-populated, so you didn't need to do anything beyond that. And this is a post method. It's basically posting a request to HeyGen as a tool for HeyGen to create a video based on the script that I'm going to upload based on the specific avatar that I'm going to specify, right? So in this case, as I've covered in my previous video too, there's authentication required. Why is there authentication required? Because HeyGen needs to verify that you're a paying customer or you're an authorized customer and not just any random person requesting for access to the avatar. So in this case, I already have my credential filled up, but I'm just gonna create a new one so that you guys can see what's going on. I'm gonna name that HeyGen Demo AWM. And so you can see with the header, we can look at the authorization here. You know, the header is X-API-key. So I'm just going to copy this one and go back. So this is the name, which is X-API-key. And the value we can get from going back to HeyGen and going to the profile here. We're going to hit settings, and under subscriptions and API, you can see that there's a HeyGen API option here, which I can then hit this refresh button and regenerate the API key. I'm going to hit confirm just to show you guys how it all works as well. So I'm just going to copy this API key to clipboard. Obviously later on I'm going to revoke it, but going back to my workflow here, I'm just going to toggle this to expression, and I'm going to paste the entire API key into the field just like this. So I'm going to hit save, and there you go. The credential is successfully created, and we can toggle back. All right, so now that we have the authorization set up in the authentication portion, we can actually toggle off this headers, because this is basically a repeat of what we just did earlier on. And the difference is what I did earlier is going to persist in the next few nodes. So I don't have to keep typing in the API key into the headers every time I send an API request. So I'm just going to toggle this off. And scrolling down, there is this whole chunk of JSON body. Again, you don't need to be intimidated if you don't have a coding background. What it is basically a couple things which we're specifying the video format to be. So for example, you know, we want the video to be an avatar of our choosing, and then there's the avatar ID. So right now we need to get the avatar ID for my avatar, and going back to HeyGen and going into avatars, you can see that I have 2 avatars all set up right here. So what I want to do is just to click on these 3 dots and copy the avatar ID, and then I can go back to my workflow and literally just replace this with my avatar ID, which are going to be in numbers like this, right? And everything else I'm just going to leave as is, except the input text. So the input text is going to determine the script, or rather what the avatar is going to say. So what I want to do is to just drag this output into the script here, right? So I'm going to blow this up so you can see. So actually that went into the wrong part. So just to double back a little bit, you want to make sure that you toggle it to expression before you do that, because otherwise it'll just go to the bottom of the chunk. So I'm going to drag the output into here, which is the input text, and then the voice ID, you want to make sure that it's using my voice. So I'm just gonna replace this, go back to my HeyGen, and this time I'm gonna go to voices, and I have a bunch of voices here, so I'm gonna pick this one. They're all pretty much the same, but I'm just gonna get voice ID again, hit voice ID, go back to my workflow, and same thing with what we did with the avatar ID, just copy that. So now it knows to use which avatar, because we're giving it the avatar ID and also the voice ID. So we're good to go here. Just one last thing before we go. In the dimension, you might notice that this is not the appropriate Instagram dimension. So what we want to do is to just replace this whole bit from the quotation mark to the curly brace and just replace it with width 720, height 1280, which is the ratio for Instagram. Of course, you might notice that the actual ratio that's recommended for Instagram is 1080 by 1920. But in order to generate 1080, you need to be on a paid plan, etc. So I'm on a free plan right now. So the max I can go up to is 720. I just have to make sure that the height ratio is correct based on that width. So just to let you know, right? Okay, so now that's all set up. I am going to hit execute step. And there you go, that post request has been sent to HeyGen. So HeyGen is now receiving the request to generate the video. So while it's doing that, what we want to do is to introduce the wait node. And why are we waiting? Well, the reason why we're waiting is because it's going to take a couple of seconds. It could take up to a minute even for it to generate that video, right? We're going to wait 30 seconds. And while that's loading, what we're going to introduce here is actually the HTTP GET request, because we posted the request to generate the video. Now we want to get the result, which is the video. What we want to do is to just go back to documentation here and scroll a little bit further down. And you'll see that there's the check video generation status. And what we want to do here is the same thing. We want to copy this entire curl command. We're going to go back to the workflow and we're going to import the get curl command. And what we do again, same thing. We're going to choose the authentication as generic credential type, and we're going to choose header auth. And we're going to choose the same HeyGen demo-AWM, which is the authentication that we've set up earlier. So now what we want to do is we want to send the video ID, because again, we have requested for HeyGen to generate a video. So now we want to fetch a video. So how does HeyGen know which video to fetch for you? We got to provide it with a video ID. So I'm just going to drag the video ID variable into this value field right here, and then we're good to go. So we're going to hit execute step. And as you can see, the status is still processing. So what that means is HeyGen is still taking some time to generate the video. So what we want to do while we wait for that is we want to introduce an if node. So an if node is basically just a logic node where it determines what the next step is depending on the value of the variable that you've passed on. So in this case, what we want to pass on is the status. And actually, as you can see, it still says processing here, but we want to say that if the value is completed, which is when the video is completed, it's going to go into the true branch. And then when it goes into the false branch, we're going to wait another 30 seconds, all right? So why are we doing this? So we're doing this because if the video has been completed, well, it goes to the true branch and then we move on with the rest of the workflow. But if it hasn't been completed, we want to wait for another 30 seconds so that it goes back and try to get that video again. If we don't set this loop up, and the video is not ready, and we try to get the video, it's going to stop the entire workflow because basically you're not going to get any result, and the workflow is going to stop right at this node. So we're creating a loop here, so just to make sure that if the video is not ready, it's going to go into the loop until it's ready, and then move on with the workflow. Anyway, so let's hit execute step again with the get request, and as you can see now, the status is completed. So what we want to do is to pass it on to the if node here, and the next node that we want to pass it on to is the SUBMAGIC node, which is another HTTP request post to SUBMAGIC. So this tool basically takes your video and it overlays it with the text of the audio that you have in the video. So in this case, what we want to do is to head over to submagic.co, and it's submagic.co, not .com. And what you want to do is get signed up on SUBMAGIC and go to integrations once you're signed up. And again, if this is your first time seeing this tool and you want to know how it works, I did put together a video where I deep dive into how you can do this step by step. I'll link it up here and down in the description below as well. But I'll still run through the steps here so it's easy for you guys to follow. But as you go into integrations, where you want to hit is the manage API key. As you can see, there is a set of API key. You can regenerate the key. I'm not going to do that, but once you regenerate it, you'll see the key and you can copy that and essentially go back to your workflow and set up the authentication the same exact way you would with HeyGen. And once you have that, what you want to do is just go over to the documentation section, which is docs.submagic.co, and grab the example request. Again, this is a curl command here, which you can copy. And again, it is the same header x-API-key, which is essentially the same as HeyGen. And once you copy that, go back to your workflow and hit import curl and copy the entire chunk in the same way. And authentication, I already have it set up here. It's called SUBMAGIC demo, but essentially, again, it's the same exact way as what we did with HeyGen. So I'm going to toggle off the headers here, go down to the JSON body. And I'm going to leave everything as is right now, with the exception that the video URL, I'm going to replace this because this is the URL of the video, which it's going to overlay the text onto. So I want to make sure that I grab this video URL right here and drop it right on this field. So template name, I'm going to leave it as Hormozy, which is the text or the style that it's going to use to overlay. You can format and customize this as much as you want, but I'm just going to keep this simple. I'm going to hit execute step. Yep, as you can see, the request has been sent over to SUBMAGIC, and in the same format. All right, let me just drag it down here so that you can see everything on one screen. As we're waiting for that, we want to introduce, again, a wait node, which is in a similar logic as previously with HeyGen. So we're waiting for it to overlay the text, right? And it's getting that. While it's getting that, we're going to introduce a get requests. And as you can see, while we waited 15 seconds, the status is still not ready. It's just uploading. Again, we're going to create a loop where if the thing is not ready, it's not going to work. So what do we want to do here? Again, we want to import curl, and where we're going to get the curl command from is back in the SUBMAGIC documentation. We're going to hit get project. And what we want to do is essentially copy the get project curl command, which is basically just the URL endpoint, but copy the entire curl command and hit import. And as you can see, it's just auto-populating the field here, authentication. We're going to hit the same authentication. And because we already set up the header authentication, we can toggle off the send headers. And in the URL, one little thing we want to do, we want to make sure we're grabbing the right ID of the video that's been overlaid with text. So we're going to grab this ID field over here, or ID variable over here from the wait node. And again, I need to remember to toggle that to expression and drag it and just drop it right there. All right, so again, this is just to make sure that we're grabbing the right project ID or video ID from SUBMAGIC in this case. So I'm going to hit execute step, and there we go. As you can see, the status is completed, so we're good with that. Now, I know the status is completed, so technically the workflow can go, but just to make sure that we complete the workflow in the case where the status is not completed, it goes into a loop. I'm just going to set up the same thing. Okay, cool. So now that loop is in place, as you can see, this goes to a true branch because the status has been completed. So the next node we want to hit here is actually the Blotato node. So it's BLOTATO. And again, if you haven't used this tool before, I've actually covered this in my other video. And again, I'll link it up here and in the description down below. But essentially, it's almost exactly the same with any other tool that you use. You sign in and you set up your credentials, your API keys. But what's different is, in the past, Blotato used to only work with the HTTP request node. But now, because there's a new community node from Blotato, and again, if this node doesn't show up, or if you see an install button right here, you want to hit install. And sometimes if your n8n account version is not up to date, you may not be able to install that. So just go back to your admin panel and update the version and you're good to go. But essentially, once you've installed the Blotato node, it makes the posting architecture a lot easier because you can just choose from the Blotato node a couple of options here, which is the first thing that we want to do is to upload the media, right? And if you've seen my other video on Blotato, you know that the reason why we want to upload the media or the video URL in this case into Blotato in the first place is because if you try to upload directly into Instagram based on the video URL that you've generated, it's a random video URL and Instagram might actually reject that to be uploaded onto their platform. So Blotato has this upload media function, which will help convert your video URL into a Blotato hosted video URL, which is already whitelisted by Instagram, TikTok, and all the other socials, so that your uploading or auto upload feature workflow just goes seamlessly. So in this case, we have the download URL here. So I'm just going to drag the download URL into the media URL right here. And basically we're uploading the media onto Blotato. Again, we're not really uploading to Instagram just yet. So I'm going to hit execute step here. As you can see, sent over the request to upload the media or the video URL into the database. So the next thing I want to do here is actually to introduce the Instagram caption agent node. And in this case, I'm just going to pick the OpenAI message model node. And I'm going to name this Instagram caption agent. And caption essentially are the text that goes below your reels, not necessarily the text that's overlaid within the Instagram reel. So in this case, what I want to do is I just want to choose GPT-5 as the model. And as for the user prompt, what I want to do is I want to furl this up and go back to the script generator agent. And I'm going to pass the output of that generator agent into the user prompt right here. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want to make sure that it has context to the video or the script that's been generated in the Instagram reel itself so that the actual caption flows along with the actual video. So under the system prompt, what I want to do here is I want to just paste the entire prompt here that I prepared. I'm going to blow this up, toggle it to expression. So essentially, again, I went to ChatGPT and prompt engineered the system prompt here, which is your Instagram reel caption, generate the agent, your objectives, hook the audience, start with punchy stuff, and then some hashtag rules, etc. Right? So you can just do the same. And essentially, I want to hit execute step here. So it's not allowing me to go ahead with pinned data. So, all right, so I'm going to run that again. I've actually gone ahead and fixed that. And it's generated an output here, which I'm going to pass along to the next node, which is another Blotato node. And this time we're going to create posts, right? So this is the output from the previous node, which is the Instagram caption agent. And it says retirement is in an H. It's a math problem you can solve faster than you think. And there's some hashtags, I assume, that came with it. Let me see. Yep, there's some hashtags there. So I'm going to drag this message here and I'm going to drop it in the text field because basically this is the caption field that's going to go into Instagram. Just want to make sure that I'm selecting the right fields here. So connected Blotato account, resources post, operation is create on Instagram. And I've already connected my Instagram account, which is automated with Marc. And if you haven't done so before, simply head over to blotato.com and get signed up and everything. And once you've done that, you can essentially just set up your account, connect it with Blotato, and then it's ready to get posted. So you can see here, I already have my Instagram set up and connected to Blotato. And of course, for the API key, you can grab it from the API dashboard. I'm sorry, I don't think it's in the API dashboard. Sorry, yeah, settings under API, and you can grab your API key here and copy it under your authentication. Now, going back to the workflow here. So we've got the text and now we need the media URL, which is generated previously by the upload media. So this is the media URL that is the URL from Blotato and not the random URL that's generated, by HeyGen and SUBMAGIC. All right, so I'm gonna hit execute step here. Okay, so I had to rerun that because there was some unexpected error that occurred in the previous nodes. But essentially, once you unpin everything and rerun it, it's going through. And just want to recap, the media type is Reels and it's posting the URLs up. And as you can see, there's a post submission ID, which is native to Blotato. So you know that it's been posted onto your Instagram channel. And if you were to go to Blotato in the API dashboard, you can see that it's currently processing that posting to your Instagram. So let's go over to my Instagram channel and take a look at what's been posted by the workflow.
What if 40 wasn't mid-career? It was your second life. Early retirement isn't about having millions. It's about needing less and owning your time. Step 1, find your freedom number. Yearly spending, X 25. Cut the target by shrinking the big 3. Housing, transport, food. Treat them like subscriptions you can renegotiate or cancel. Step 2, widen the gap, raise income, trim waste, and automate investing the difference every payday. Step 3, buy time buying assets, broad index funds, a simple cash flow side hustle, skills that make your hour worth more, guard against lifestyle creep. Retire in stages, hit a number that lets you work because you want to, not because you must. Retirement isn't an age, it's a number and a habit. What's your freedom number? Follow for more calm, practical money moves.
The workflow is working as expected. But of course, in terms of quality, I feel that we could do better in terms of generating the avatar and corresponding audio. And of course, part of that is because the avatar, when I created it, I've only uploaded a video of myself, which is only 30 seconds long. So ideally, you want to upload 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes and make sure that you're more expressive on the video and stuff like that. And at the same time, when it comes to voices, you can actually do a lot more context pre-training of the model just to make sure that it sounds more human-like and more like you. But again, because I wanted to keep this video short, I wanted to just show you guys how everything works and make sure that you have a good idea at a foundational level how to put together a workflow like this, even without any code. So I hope that was useful. Of course, there are many improvements that we can make in terms of just getting the video up to par in terms of quality. And if you're interested to use SUBMAGIC or any of the tools that I've talked about on this video, please use any of the links in the description below. And of course, if you liked the video and found it to be useful, please consider subscribing and I'll see you on the next one.